am uber excited to have the pastor, Trevor Littleton,
Hello.
who is my mommy's pastor. And so I'm really excited to have, because he's got some really awesome things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, where do we want to start? First thing I always like to do on Real Solutions, because to me these are videos about real people serving a real God and the real things that He does in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us your story.
Oh,
How
wow.
did you get to where you are? What is your testimony? What did God do?
Wow. So basically the story of my life really centers around the word adoption. I was adopted as a baby in Tuscarawas County, Ohio, so us hillbillies over there in eastern Ohio. But I was adopted into a great family and grew up well. But we all, my mom and dad and myself, I was an only child, we came to Christ all within about a year of each other. So mid-90s, somewhere around there. And very quickly I felt a call into ministry, went with that, haven't wavered from that. But the story of my life really began with adoption and has moved back to adoption. My wife and I just finished an adoption from Ukraine. We adopted 2 children, Roman and Raya, from Ukraine. We already had 4 children, so we're nuts. And we adopted 2 more, and it's been wild. But really the theme of it has been adoption. So be it how I started off in life, be it coming to Christ and the adopted heirs of Christ that we really are, to adopting these children there. My doctoral dissertation is on adoption, international adoption. So that is there, and just really one way or the other, that word has been intertwined and weaved into my life from the beginning until right now.
Neat. So I wanted to ask you that specifically. Because many people would say, you had 4 children, are you crazy? And how did God really just lay that on your heart? Because that had to be a divine thing.
Oh my goodness, it was. So my wife and I have always really just talked about adopting, even from days that we dated. And we just never did it, kept getting pregnant, so adoption became tough. There is a medical clinic in Haiti that we support, and we've been there a number of times. And there was a little girl down there who, she was born, situations were very difficult, mother and father were now out of the picture, and they were needing somebody to help this child. And we at first wanted to adopt her. It looked as if adoption may become very difficult for her, so we just began supporting her. We would send out clothes, we'd send out money, do whatever we could just to support this girl. And then in November of 2014, we got the call that she had passed away. She was 18 months old, and it was really simple, just a respiratory illness, and they just couldn't get her to the clinic because of Haiti political unrest. The roads were full, they couldn't get her to the clinic, she couldn't receive the help, she passed away. We were the first family in America that they called. It's horrible, it's horrible. And, we obviously had a lot of tears that night, and we had come to the agreement where we knew adopting her it would be impossible. But we knew, what, if we're ever going to do this, it needs to be now. So within about a week of that phone call, I'm sitting in it wasn't my office at our former church, but it was in a parking lot actually. I was getting ready to pick up my kids. Plain as day, I really felt the voice of God just say, write a book and call it Boundless. And I'm like, okay, God, I'll get right on that in my free time. And so I did it. And I remember I had wrote a couple chapters and toyed around with a few things, didn't really like it. And I wrote one chapter, which is now the first chapter of Boundless. And it was just a narrative retelling of Adam and Eve and creation. And my wife had been reading everything to this point. She said, you need to keep doing this. So I did, and Boundless was born out of that 21-day faith journey through the signature moments of faith. So the intent of Boundless as a book is I want to take my faith and what I feel God called me to do, I want to weigh it against those epic moments of faith in the Old Testament and just really see where we go with that. So in the process of it, and it was toward the end of the writing of the book, I really felt God saying, Trevor, listen, you're writing this book on faith, and I'm going to bless it, but you need to step out on faith yourself. And I'm like, you know what, God? I hate it when you say that. Yeah, so I did, and we had been talking about adoption for a while. And I remember I went downstairs, and Shannon and I talked about it, and within about a week, we had submitted, and it cost us $1,000 at the time. And we had submitted a $500 contract and a $500, I believe it was an application fee. And we were off, and it was like, we don't have a lot of savings in the bank, don't have a lot of these things. how do you begin this? And it's like, no, faith. This whole thing is on faith. So
Absolutely.
I don't need to wait to have the money for international adoption, which is incredibly expensive. It is very expensive. I don't need to have all that money. I don't need to have everything in place. I don't need to know all the answers. I need to trust God, and we did. And I'll tell you what, man, the last year and a half now, since we've taken our boundless journey, which our boundless journey has been adoption. We serve a limitless God.
That's right.
It's time for a limitless faith. So since we've done that, man, it's been wild. But we completed the adoption in November of this last year of 2015, and Ryan and Roman are now home waiting for me. We just had Roman's birthday party. He's 4 years old, his first birthday party a kid ever had. We had it this afternoon. So
That's
it's fun.
beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. And I want to make something really, really just boom right here for a minute. God spoke to you, and you did the things that were necessary to do what he was telling you. I have found a lot of times in ministry where people are just crying out to God, God, you told me this, but then they're not doing anything with it. They're not. You had to physically write the book. You had to physically submit that $1,000. I'm sure there were lots of other things you and your wife wanted to do with that $1,000. You had to do what God was saying. And it's because of those things God opens doors. It's
Faith
because of
without action
that.
is dead.
That's right.
I mean, it's very simple.
It is very simple. And people always want to be like, well, it's all about works. No! It's about being obedient to the call of God on your life.
Well, and quite honestly, I mean, I'm a pastor, so one of the things I tell people in ministry, and I teach every once in a while for higher Christians, so when I get ministry students and when I'm trying to prep them, one of the things that I try to always tell somebody who's curious about ministry is, listen, in ministry, you will 100% see the worst in everybody you're around. And in ministry, you will see the best.
Absolutely.
So, I've been in full-time ministry for the last 15 years now. And as I look at that, one of the things that I've learned is people have a lot of excuses not to follow God's call. So as a pastor, I'll feel God say, hey, I want you to talk to so-and-so about, I'm trying to move them in their life. So I'll sit down and I'll say something to them. And a lot of people respond very well, but some people don't. I've had excuses in my life. Okay, I'm certain you have in yours. We all have. But one of the things that I'm always privy to see is the excuses that hold people back from faith. And I really felt, here's this book on faith. God is a boundless God. He knows the boundaries. Okay, there is no limit to his checkbook. There is no limit to what he can do. Why am I not following this? Why am I not just completely trusting? So if we're justified by faith, and this is what Scripture just so epically talks about, why am I not doing this? I don't understand where the money for this adoption will come from. I don't understand where the support, the people I already have 4 children, the time that's going to come out of these things. Going to Ukraine, my wife and I, we spent 6 weeks over in Ukraine. How on earth are you going to find the time to do these things? And I mean, just one quote that I had learned early on in our adoption, I heard, and I thought, wow, I'm going to push this one, and it came true, was if you ever want to see God move in faith, adopt. Because it is not the will of God that orphans sit without parents for the rest of their lives and basically sit and rot in some room with 4 white walls. It's not God's will. So what is God's will? He will move if you follow him with this. And we went, and I'll tell you what, the way things came together with our adoption are nothing short of supernatural.
That's beautiful. And that's beautiful. And if you think about, too, the call of God on your children's life that you've adopted, these are, as he said, these were kids that, I don't want to say were hopeless, but they certainly wouldn't have had a lot of the experiences that they will have in America. They will have a whole family. And, family is where it starts. That's how you change a nation. That's how you change a community. It's at the family. And that is the most beautiful thing. And he's talking about his book right here called Balance. And I will put it in places where he will be able, you can purchase this book on this video, but this is the book that he's talking about. So y'all just need to go get it. And so thank you so much for coming here and being on Real Solutions with me. It is so exciting because people need to hear. People need to hear your stories. Everybody's got them. We need to hear them. We need to hear it. So that's awesome, and I'm so glad that he did this. So I want you guys all to remember that God has awesome plans for your life. So you get excited.